County crews, graveling roads in the township, laying gravel roads, placing large rock and phosphor areas throughout the county. We've still got soft spots that are showing up.
Yeah, they're all over.
And of course the trouble, I don't know, it seems like we're having one of those springs where we haven't had a real good, hard, warm rain, and I don't know whether there's still some frost down in those spots.
But those have, I've been here 7 going on 8 years, and now the last 2 years, we didn't ever, I don't remember seeing those hardly ever, and now, we're seeing them all over. That the north-south road from Peyton's cattle lot up, there's 2 bad spots on that one going north. Kind of one's north of Norma Asta Fords. Might be one north and one south. But they're all over. I mean, we're seeing them. Are they blading them and then rocking them, or what?
Well, that's what
how are we fixing?
That's what they're trying to do, and most of them is some of them you can put a load of rock there and blade them down, and put a load of rock there, and sometimes that does it, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if we're getting some different traffic than we've had before. I know, east of me,
there's some there too. So
there was a real bad when I stuck a flag on, because you got so bad that your cars were dragging bottom going through there.
So what do you do with that one?
Well, 2 things. We put rock in it before that happened, and then we bladed it again. I don't think we added any more rock, but the whole problem started because Kaiser, who hauled grain, had several trucks running grain to Fonda, and the road just was soft enough that in those spots it just cut some grooves, and I mean, there's several spots along there yet that some of them we've dumped some rock in, some of them they aren't real bad, but then of course when it rained, the tracks sat full of water.
But it doesn't seem like the ones that we had last year really went away. I mean, they're still there. Now we're getting more.
Yeah.
It seems like, and
I don't know. I mean, we've got some areas. One that Dean called about the other day, an area that had some ruts, and then of course they fell full rain, and it's some places we've got some roads that could use a little more crown to them, so it drains off a little bit better. But I mean, a lot of the spots we were having showing up before the rain, really wasn't related to flat roads. But of course, when they're flat and then they get ruts in them, they stand water quicker, and it just sort of snowballs the problem. But I don't know. We haven't seemed to find anything that really works really well. Like I said, last year they didn't seem to want to go away all year, and this year it seems like we're starting out the same way. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't ever seem to go away.
So I don't know whether we're getting heavier traffic than we've had in the past, more of it. And I'm sure that's some of it too. There was a session out there at Mace that talked about the whole ethanol industry, and there's a guy from the Corn Growers Association was showing what the yields have done and what they're expecting them to do. They're talking 300 bushels by 2015. And you start looking at your roads, and a lot of that, again, grain 50 years ago or 30 years ago was fed on the farm, and you hauled very little of it to town, and now all of a sudden you're going to go from yields that were, under 100 bushel, a number of years ago to 300 bushel, and all that grain's going to be running on our roads,
How did they expect to get up to 300 bushels?
No,
They're going to start sowing it instead of planting it?
No, I think it's genetics.
Genetics. I mean,
Genetic improvement.
yeah. And that was some information that that Monsanto had.
I've heard it before too. I can't believe it.
I mean, the genetics are, you know, better able to withstand the dry weather and less nitrogen and still get the yields. And anyway, just the point was is that it's going to put a lot more roads on your road, and of course, I took it in Illinois. They must not have their weight limit must be less than 80,000 pounds, because they're talking about going up to 80,000 pounds on the trucks. And of course, here we've got trucks that are wanting to go heavier yet. And of course, when you look at roads, it's the trucks that break them up. I mean, you can run millions of cars over a road, and it's not going to really affect it. But when you start running loads, and we're starting to see more loads, you know, than heavier loads than the roads were designed for. So, I mean, it's going to get to the point where somehow we're going to have to find more money there.
And we're all using bigger wagons than have ever been used before. I mean, some of those are 750 bushel,
Yeah.
and on 2 axles, you know,
And I think, you know, some of, you know, just the livestock industry too. I mean, it used to be, you know, we had a single axle feed truck come out there with 4 or 5 ton on, you know, and now they're running semis, you know, at least probably 80,000 pounds on them, and you know, instead of feeding, you know, 200 or 300 hogs at this site, you're feeding 1,000 or better. And it used to be, I think, farmers could schedule both the deliveries of their feed and deliveries of their corn and livestock a little more according to the weather. You know, if it was wet, you didn't haul. But it's getting to the point now where, you know, that feed truck needs to be there. They got enough hogs that need to be there every day. You know, and
at least once a week, I'm thinking.
And then you get some of these manure haulers that they're shortening up that window. I understand there's some legislation. I don't know, did it get passed? Or
I really haven't seen much of a report.
But they're talking about not allowing application on frozen ground. Well, for hauling on our roads, that's the best time to haul that stuff is when when the roads are froze. Well, now they're going to try to squeeze that out of winter into, you know, either fall or spring, and it's not going to do our roads any good. You know, I can tell you that right now. But again, you get producers that are more, you know, they don't live in the area. They got livestock buildings in the area, and our contract haulers for hauling manure. You know, they're not as concerned about what the road's going to be like when they're done, because when they're done, they go on to someplace else. They don't have to live with it or the complaints they get from neighbors. I don't know. I don't know if part of that, you know, is why we're getting some of these frost boils that don't go away.
I don't necessarily think so, because some of the ones in the neighborhood that I travel all the time don't necessarily have that traffic. You know, so it doesn't seem like, not that I'm aware of anyway, that would be on there that are doing those kinds of areas. Not that they can't, but some of the ones that are close to our home, I don't really know that they see that traffic.
I don't know. We're just going to have to try to, I mean, again, we're just trying to stay on top of them and blade them and put some, of course, limestone rock does a better job of getting the base there. I mean, sometimes I think they get bad enough, we've got to sort of, I mean, it pushes the mud up in the middle of the road a lot of times. We've got to try to blade that off.
That limestone, on the from the North Lutheran Cemetery south of where my brother Evan lives,
Okay.
that one had gone bad a couple of years ago, and they put limestone on that. That shaped up pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid again.
Limestone does do a lot better job of, you know, giving you a base than the gravel does, because it's got more angular particles in it. We try to, you know, we've got limited resources of that too, because it's quite a bit higher price than gravel. But if you get all 3 loads of gravel out there, you just won't try to get 1 load of rock in there if you get them to fix the problem.
In that instance, that one turns out.
Yeah.